to take their seats. We're going to have a brief presentation. My name is Peter Scully. I'm a deputy Suffolk County executive representing County Executive Steve Malone. I'm here with members of our water quality team. I'll introduce you briefly. We have Elizabeth Alexander as our senior government liaison officer. We have with us our chief sanitation engineer in the back, Janice McGovern, who handles all of the sewer infrastructure in the county. We're also joined by the design engineers for this project, D&B engineers, Adriano Crispipo, Tom Schaefer. We're just really pleased to be working closely with the town of Huntington and Huntington community on this very exciting project. And we just couldn't be prouder of the important work that the town of Huntington is doing with its DRI committee, and the fact that the town's application for downtown revitalization initiative funding from the state won a competitive process, and the town is now in this process working with the DRI committee to select projects. But sewering of this project area is a critically important part. As you'll hear tonight, this is an informational meeting. The actual project will not commence until 2024. I wanted to introduce the town supervisor, whose leadership is so critically important to getting the DRI info. Supervisor?
Well, thank you everybody for coming out, and I'll start by saying, Peter said most of what I intended on saying, but it looks like shovels in the ground by Tuesday of December 2024. That's the difference. I think this is in your slide deck. Yeah, so you'll see a timeline in there, and the critical question every time I see Peter, when are we putting the shovel in the ground? That's the critical thing. It looks like December 2024, but I'm sure it'll be on time, under budget. But I have long been a proponent of sewers, to a point where people would tell me to stop talking about sewers, but I continue to, and one of the people back there, the Deputy Supervisor John McCarron, was up and telling me to stop talking. Nobody wants to hear about sewers. I completely disagree. I think everyone wants to hear about sewers, because I think what the big takeaway from tonight when we talk about this just over here is that the sewers are really the seed money along with the DRI. It's not the DRI meeting, it's very similar. They're really dependent on each other. The sewers along with the DRI, this is the seed money into Huntington Station that's really going to make the place grow and get a lot of private capital investment. And what we're doing with the sewers is creating an environment where there's going to be, I can't make guarantees, but when there are sewers, you're going to see private capital investment follows. It always will. So the idea behind this and other sewer projects that we are going to be lobbying for, fair warning, we want to start getting some east-west sewer lines going. Shameless sales pitch, shameless lobbyist for the town of Huntington. But once we get sewer lines north, this sewer line will connect. We'll at least get a complete north-south trunk line across Long Island, north to south, and then from there, over the course of years, it's going to take, but over the course of years, start getting east-west sewer lines, and with that, the idea is capital investment will follow, and also all the added benefits to environmental, drinking water, stormwater runoff, all the infrastructure that comes along with it is really what we're looking forward to. So, just the first step for Huntington Station, but it's going to start here. And with that, I think the technical side is going to be this young man right here.
Timing is impeccable. It was on the whole time.
I didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I present this project. It's been a long time coming, as all of you already know. So, as Peter and this...
Can you use the microphone? She's recording, and just from experience in this room, it's going to be not good.
I was going to say, you already have a question. It's on the first slide.
Thanks, June.
Okay, let me just move this to the side, though, so I'm not blocking this. Okay, so, as the supervisor and Peter already mentioned, this is a Suffolk County project. with two key partners being the town and New York State, and D&B were handling the engineering side of the project. So as all of you know, this has been years in the making. The town and the local community has been pushing to revitalize this area. Just to name a few of the works in progress: the Town of Huntington Community Development Agency, the Town of Huntington Economic Development Corporation, the Huntington Station Business Improvement District. The culmination of all those efforts has resulted in most of you have probably already heard about the DRI project, that the town was a recipient of a $10 million grant from New York State. That project area aligns pretty closely with the sewer project. So as Peter mentioned, it's going to flow very, very nicely, no pun intended. All these years of trying to revitalize the area, the problem has become very obvious that there is a need for sewers. There's a restriction with the health code on developing parcels. Most of the parcels in this area are not large enough in order to develop them. So that has been a constant obstacle in revitalizing this area. So the result of all those years of efforts has been this sewer project. This is probably my favorite slide because this doesn't happen on most sewer projects. As Peter mentioned, we have $22 million in funding from the county, from the American Rescue Plan Act. We have $22 million from the town. That's their entire portion of the American Rescue Plan Act. They took it all, put it right towards this project. And then again, as Peter mentioned, we have $22 million that New York State matched. Okay, I know this slide's kind of small, so I will go over it, but everyone always says, why does it take so long? And so this slide is hopefully to give you a little insight into the process of making this happen. In 2021, we completed a feasibility study. That was the first step in looking at how to sewer this area. We looked at which parcels were to be sewered. We estimated the amount of flow that could result from this area if it were to be built out and if it had sewers. And then essentially we had to evaluate where does all that flow go. Following the completion of that study, a recommendation was made within that report. From that recommendation, an engineering design report was completed. That is essentially to outline the details of that recommendation. Once that report was done, in July 2023, the environmental review was done for the project. That essentially looks at what impacts the project would have on the environment. In September, we completed what's called the map plan and report. That's a legal document that's required by New York State to establish a sewer district that essentially outlines the limits of the district, what the associated costs are, and that has to go and get approved by Suffolk County and New York State. In conjunction with that, design work has started in the form of topographic and utility surveys, so marking out where all the utilities are in the streets, getting the grades of all the area, because all that information is going to be used within our design plans. And the design plans are currently under development. They are scheduled to be completed by February, and I'll go over that in a later slide. But once the design is done, it goes out for public bidding. So the county will release the bids and get pricing from contractors. They'll evaluate the bids that they receive, select the contractor, enter into contracts with them, and then construction scheduled to begin at the end of 2024 once all that is done. As of right now, I'll explain further in detail about the project, but we are estimating 3 years for construction. Okay. So a little brief overview of the project. I will get further into it as we move on within the presentation. But essentially, during the feasibility study, here's Huntington Station, this little tiny area here. We looked at different options on where we could dispose of this flow. We looked at the town sewer district, some private treatment plants, including one at Greens at F Hollow, and then Suffolk County Sewer District number 3, which is this giant hatched area down here along the bottom. Essentially, all the Sewer District 3 flow goes to Bergen Point Wastewater Treatment Plant in West Babylon. Ultimately, the feasibility study connecting to sewer district number 3 was the only feasible option. The other options did not have enough capacity for this area. This is the map of the service area. A lot of you have already seen these on the poster boards, but essentially the service area predominantly runs from the Long Island Railroad on New York Avenue, south all the way to 15th Street. We're also picking up parcels along Deep Depot Road and 4th Street is on the northwest side, all those green parcels. This area, it was mainly chosen with the focus of trying to revitalize this community and provide more housing and workforce opportunities. And the projected flow from this area, we're projecting 250,000 gallons. The collection system. So, the collection system, you'll see here that all the highlighted parcels are the parcels that are included within the sewer, within the service area, as shown in the last slide. All the black lines indicate where we're proposing to run a gravity sewer, so gravity just flowing downhill. And the red is a few parcels that will be connected via what's called the low pressure sewer system. That's essentially because the grade drops there. So in order to connect them into the gravity system, those parcels have to get pumped. So we have a main gravity line running down New York Avenue, generally flowing south. We also have a gravity line running down 3rd Avenue, generally flowing south, and that's to collect the parcels in the northwest corner that are shown in orange. All that flow will go to a new pump station on the south end of the service area, and from there it gets pumped to the Walt Whitman Mall where the county has an existing pump station. This little figure here just gives you a kind of general idea where we have our gravity pipe flowing to a manhole, flowing again by another gravity pipe to a pump station. This pump station is basically just a below-grade structure with pumps in it that pumps the wastewater into a force main. The force main is under pressure, and from there it discharges into another gravity system that ultimately goes to the treatment plant. Okay, so what this project is covering, the $66 million in cost, is covering the installation of the sewer infrastructure within the municipal right-of-way, so within the street and the sidewalk. So essentially, the county will install the sewers within the street, and for each property there will be a service lateral that comes off the main sewer and runs to the property line, and it will be capped for future connection. So what that means is that the property owner will have to disconnect from your existing on-site system. So if you're connected to a cesspool, whatnot, you'll have a contractor come disconnect you from that, and then run a new pipe on your property to connect into the county system. Actually, just go back to one more second. And in order to assist in the cost of this connection, the county is in the process of setting up a grant and loan program to help try to offset those costs. More details of that, as that is set up, will be shared. It does not just include the collection system that I covered in the last few slides. From that new pump station, there will be a new force main going south along New York Avenue. I know this is very tiny, so it's a very large area to show. It's going south along New York Avenue. It will cross Jericho Turnpike and go all the way behind the mall where there's an existing pump station. Now, if you go to the figure on the right, there's that same pump station. That pump station has an existing force main that's shown in brown here. So that existing force main currently runs south all the way underneath the Northern State, where it currently discharges into a gravity system south of Northern State. Our analysis concluded that the county sewer infrastructure here could not accept the flow. It did not have enough capacity. So what we're doing as part of this project is taking that existing force main and extending it. That's the green line. We're extending it further south, underneath the LIE, all the way to Melville on Access Road and connecting to a gravity system there where there is capacity. So the $66 million project includes all of this blue force main, the Huntington Station force main, and this green force main here. So it's a traveling quite a ways. And from there, it flows through an existing system all the way to West Valley. So everything from Huntington Station will end up ultimately in West Valley. Okay, this slide covers the estimated cost. So we have estimated construction cost and estimated soft cost. The construction cost, this is part of this slide. Everything on this slide is currently covered by the $66 million. So we have all the different components of the construction that I covered. That includes the gravity collection system, that low pressure sewer collection system, the pump station upgrades, the force main extensions. And then for our soft costs, we have engineering costs, we have property acquisition costs, and then legal bonding and insurance costs. So all said and done, we're currently estimating the project around $64 million, just under the $66 million that we have in front of us. Okay, so once the sewer district is established, all those parcels in the service area, there will be a fee for being part of the sewer district. That is a fee that essentially gets added on to your tax bill. There's 3 different components of the fee that are summarized in the slide. But essentially, what it includes is a user fee, which covers the operation and the maintenance of the system. It covers the existing debt for the sewer district. That's divided among all the users within the district based on the property's assessed value. And then
the Huntington Station, right? In the sewer district? It's gonna be,
the debt payment,
yeah,
this is just one part of the.
yeah. But we're not dividing anything that is related to the Southwest sewer district.
That's part of what
It is.
you're becoming. You're becoming part of the Southwest Sewer District number 3. That's what this fee is. So you're sharing in that cost. And then there is a per parcel benefit, which is just a flat fee. So the table on the right is what we're projecting on an annual basis. So the user fee is currently $187 per year. That existing debt payment that I said is based on your assessed value. Right now, we're basing it, this $197 per year fee is based on assessed value of $3,500. So if your property is assessed at a lower value, that would be slightly less. If your property is assessed at a higher value, the fee would be more. So that's based on your tax bill, whatever your property is assessed at. So $3,500 was essentially the average for this area, so that's what we're using here to show. And then the per parcel benefit fee is a flat rate of $35. So all said and done, for a property assessed at $3,500, we estimate an increase in tax bill of $420 per year. And again, that's based on what your assessed value is, and it may change as this project is finalized, but for now, this is a pretty close projection. Okay, so the next steps, there is that map plan and report that I mentioned earlier that was completed in September. That's going to the county for approval in December. There's a public hearing for that as part of the approval process. Again, that's the legal document that essentially outlines these are the parcels that are included in the district. Here are the costs, and so that's the next step. The design is projected to be completed by February. It'll go out for a bid in March. Bids will be received in June. At that point, sometime before construction begins, we'd like to have another community meeting so that we can go over what to expect as construction is planning to start. And we anticipate that the contractors will be awarded sometime in August, and construction will begin essentially after the summer season, fall season, sometime in December. And again, we're projecting a three-year construction because it's not just the collection system, it includes that conveyance system all the way south. No. So that's why 3 years sounds like a long time. It's a lot of work, a lot of area to cover. So in conclusion, this is a great project in our opinion that is fully funded. It's been years in the making, so we're excited to have another meeting before construction starts at the end of the year. And we will be here for questions, and I'll take some now.
projection time and stuff for the construction, for the whole entire construction, how long will it be?
3 years for everything.
3 years for everything?
So, for example, if you go back to that main slide. No, just have it. Yeah, so 3 years for everything, because we can't start sending the flow from here until all this is done. And all this is done. So it doesn't mean it can't happen permanently, but it's still, we're talking miles of improvements. Yes.
Is it all one contract?
As of now, yes, that is the plan, is one contract. So there will probably be multiple crews though. You know, they will work in this area or they also.
Why would you get two contracts?
What was that?
It's like two separate jobs. Why would you do two contracts?
Some kind of cost savings, you know, by order of magnitude. If there's some one component that makes sense to break it up, that may still happen, but as of right now,
I have a few questions. First of all, the residences that are along the line, are they gonna be forced to connect? So basically, they're gonna have to pay the $420 a month.
Once-
First of all, just a caveat, I'm totally in favor of this, but I just wanna know what the.
once the sewer district is established, whether you connect, whether you're connected or not, that your tax bill will be reflected that you're part of the sewer.
Okay, and then it's just a fee to connect, and then there's no extra fee after that.
The annual fee is, once you're part of the district, that's the annual fee. There is no, the fee to connect will be the cost to connect. So the cost to have a contractor come and connect your building to the sewer. It's not necessarily a county fee, it's gonna, you know, the county can provide, you know, maybe a list of contractors that are qualified to do the work and you can quote something like that. And as I mentioned, they're trying to establish a grant and loan program to help offset those costs.
And
Oh, sorry.
also the property where your pump station is, like that little orange box.
As of right now, that's still being finalized, but it's a vacant lot.
Awesome. And then, third question. Do you ever replace the trunk line from Huntington Station to or was it in a prior study, I thought I saw that the trunk line has all these different, like restricted shades that they just added on?
So there's no existing sewer in this area now.
Yeah, I'm talking about the ones from the mall.
So from the mall, there's an existing force main from the mall going south from the state. We are not touching this part of
Okay, good.
it. We are extending it. Essentially, it ends here and goes into a gravity pipe. That gravity pipe can't take all the flow from Huntington Station, so we're disconnecting it from that gravity pipe and extending it to where we can cut capacity. And yeah, and switching out pumps in the whole with the mall because of the change in flow. So
You have to work in your practice pipes,
these pipes,
the existing pipes, if you pump them all pressure.
that's part of what the upgrades at Walt Whitman are, because we're going to be changing out the pumps that are going to be rated for the revised flow, and that changes all the head and friction losses.
But I mean, the pipes are not going to have to do.
Yeah, we're not concerned about that.
The pipes.
Yep, yeah, we checked the capacity of these pipes, that was part of the previous studies. I know you had a question?
Yeah, you also said that, there will be a grant that someone would give for us to connect with, the new pipeline, correct?
So that is a program, the county is trying to establish a grant and/or loan program to offset the costs. It's in the works, and it probably will not cover the entire cost. It will have to be something that's applied for and it will be on a basis by basis selection, you
So
know.
for the next community meeting, we can have more information about it.
Hopefully, yes, hopefully by that point.
Can you give us a snapshot of what you think the process will look like as far as construction? Are they going to demolish sidewalks? Are they going to tear up the?
Yeah, so
Streets.
just to give you a preview, I mean, we all know how the traffic is on Route 110, so along Route 110, we try to do that work at night, try to minimize the disruption. What I would imagine is just you're probably gonna not have parking on the street on 110 during construction, and they'll have to shift lanes so that we can maintain two-way traffic. So in order to make room for that, we need parking. side streets along Route 110 are not as critical. Obviously, the contractor's gonna have to keep access to the property. But in terms of this area, these gravity sewer pipes go much deeper than the force main. So at some point, your pipe could range anywhere from 8 to 15 feet deep along here. So you're ripping up a good part of the road. It's all gonna happen. We're trying to minimize the impact on only half of the road. There are, not to get too much into the nitty-gritty detail, but DOT owns concrete panels beneath the asphalt, and they require that if you disrupt any of the concrete panel, you have to replace the full portion of it. So they have multiple panels. We're trying to minimize the amount of panels that we disrupt. We're trying to keep it to half the road, so that would mean half the road gets repaved when the project is done. And also, as part of the project, any sidewalk that we disrupt, because we're going to be running laterals off the main to the property line, the sidewalk will be replaced, and all the handicap ramps along Route 110 will end up being replaced.
Is that something you've discussed with the DRI committee? Because I think that
Yes.
there was a vision about redoing the sidewalks, but if you guys are doing it,
We're in discussion with them now because they have some proposed changes to the sidewalk. So yeah, we're trying to coordinate closely with them and work out the timing of these two projects.
what happens, I'm sorry, I don't want to take up all the time, but what happens to the cesspools?
So the property owner will be responsible as part of the connection. You'll be mandated to close them. So you have to disconnect from it, close it, abandon it, and run a new connection to the sewer line in the street. And there is, that's part of what the property owner will be responsible.
In terms of the abandonment process, is that
They fill it. So it gets, yes.
Will you be able to go back to the diagram that shows the boundary line between the house and the right of way? Yes, that. Yes, the one that is right on the property line, the owner that owns that pipe got to be replaced.
Yes, so right now this pipe doesn't exist. You have a pipe.
Oh, okay.
You have a pipe right now, instead of going to the street, it probably goes to the back of your property, to your cesspool.
Yeah.
So as part of what you're gonna be responsible for is hiring someone to disconnect it from that cesspool and now run it going towards the street instead.
Okay, so that work got to be done. The homeowner's got to hire a contractor to do the work.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's got to be determined, take out work permits and all that stuff, and,
Yeah,
okay. That falls upon the owner.
the owner. Because this is in our private property, so the county's doing everything in the right way.
Is there an estimated cost for that?
It really varies property by property. I hate to say that, but it really does vary so much because it depends on how far back is your property still. How many pools do you have? Some properties have lots of pools, some pools are much deeper than others. You know, some people have 3 pools, some people have 1. So it really, really varies. You know, I can't just give you what it might, it varies a lot. Yes.
Is there going to be some sort of expedited permitting process, given all these locations you have to get permits at the same time?
That's a very good question. That's something that we can discuss with the county at their time. Yeah. It's a good point.
So once it's actually up and running, so as the homeowners are forced to tie into it, or you know you have to pay,
Yeah.
but could you still say?
Someone from the county might be able to answer this one better than me. I don't know, Peter, I hate to put it, is someone forced to connect to the sewer? This is one that I might prefer.
You know you have to pay for it, but are you forced to connect?
So the Suffolk County Code has a provision in it that says that a property owner who is advised by the head of the Suffolk County Sewer Agency that the sewer main available on the street is required to connect within a year to the code system. The county has not in the past utilized that authority. Right now, we're involved with at least one other project in the Hopog Industrial Park, or Hopog Industrial Sewer District, where we've invested in significantly in an expansion, and in order to justify the expansion, we're in the process of directly So we have the authority to direct it.
Yes.
The project calls for the acquisition of property. What are you looking to acquire?
That is basically referring to the home station site. That's currently in the county has to purchase it.
And that was a vacant lot, you said?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, say all businesses agree, would you be allowed to have a functional station easement?
Can you, I can give you,
Let's say all the business owners agree to share the cost of this connection. Could a connection be done on an easement?
the connection be done on an easement.
I think, are you suggesting one connection and then off that?
Yeah.
No, I'm the property, has to be the property, right? I know in our sewer districts in town, I'm the deputy supervisor in Montgomery County. Our sewer districts in town, we don't allow it. It's gotta be a direct connect because of flow issues that backs up into your house.
Sure.
It's your neighbor, so, that's it, direct connect. Now, some of your questions about hiring a contractor, you may pull some resources and have a contractor come in and do 10 hookups in a row and, you know, have some money savings. One person dealing with the county, it might be easier for you. That's thinking operationally as you go. A question that came up about the DRI, we actually had a Zoom call a week or two ago so that our plans for the DRI don't conflict with the sewer work, because the DRI doesn't happen without the sewer work. So we're trying to figure out timelines, because one of the suggestions here was the streetscape. We're trying to fix up the road and the sidewalks and make some nice improvements. I think the county is responsible for repaving the road curb to curb. That's New York State DOT. I know everybody has their issues with DOT, but they're required curb to curb. Plus, they're required to do some handicap ramp. So if that could be done in conjunction with whatever you guys decide you want from streetscape improvements. We've been in discussions on using some of that, whatever it is, $4 or $5 million. Maybe the county's contractor just does it all.
We have to coordinate because we can't be restoring things only to have them put up again. We can't. Right? So it's a great thing if the town is successful in getting this DRI award. Makes things a little bit more complicated for us, but we need to work closely together with the town and DRI committee to make sure that these things work out. We had one call last week where we raised some questions about the best way to approach it. We have our contractor do the streets. We're still figuring that out. So we're going to figure it out.
And the other thing is, 3 years, don't get scared that you're gonna have trucks and action on your street for 3 years. It's gonna be some movement, and county and the town, we can't dictate please to a contractor. They'll sort of tell us, this is what our plan is, and it goes into part of the selection process. So they may open it up a block at a time, finish, and you could be done in, I'm not gonna say it, you'll remember I said, you could be done early, late, what have you, while they're doing work elsewhere. So you're not going to be having road open and having disruption.
That's a good point. And before the project begins, we'll have a better idea of what the progression of the project is going to be, and you will have an idea of what you should expect. You're going to see the engineering plan and the contract. All that stuff will be developed as we let the contract and get a construction schedule. We're going to need to be in close contact with the community so everybody knows what to expect. And as business owners, we're going to be in that, we respect that. So we're going to need to be in constant contact with the town and the community.
And I think that's at July 2024 meeting. And the pre-construction to really let everybody know. We now know what the schedule is. Because again, we won't know until the contractor bids it, and they have to figure out pricing wise what's the best way for them to do it. Yeah, me or
Anyone, whoever can answer it. So is it fair to say that the $66 million can be used for some of the streetscape?
no.
So if you guys
66
do-
million is the infrastructure. I think Tom had it at 64 and change. And you know, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get any money back.
What about the parts that they tear up?
The streetscape money is going to be coming from the DRI. We will use part of the 66 million to pave. So we're not using the DRI money for the asphalt. But if we're doing decorative curbing, sidewalks, bump outs, or whatever you guys decide, that will be the DRI.
What if you own 2 properties?
Well, that's going to be a good question, because Peter and Tom, I think some people are going to look at assemblage of properties, because maybe the one lot is a sliver, and you can combine 3 separate lots, and you end up building one building, retail, apartments above. The technical question one connection possibly?
If they're combined into one lot, then we do one connection. But if it's 3 lots at the time of the project, we're gonna have to.
At what time do you set?
Well, from our standpoint, we're just going to be putting stubs at the beginning of the property, right? That doesn't mean there's a connection.
So, my point is, two studs.
You're not paying for stubs, you're not paying for stubs, stubs are part of this project.
No, I understand.
So if it's not utilized, if you end up combining your lots, then you have one that's not utilized, it doesn't really affect it, it's counted.
But if you want to have more detailed discussion about your particular situation, show us what the maps look like, and the way for us to address it, and leave it one step, we're trying to figure that out. Perfectly willing to talk to property owners, you should talk to Janice and the design team and see if there's something we can do.
Yes.
Two questions. I'm not familiar with the streetscaping plan. Does that overlap in the same place where the sewer line is? In other words, does that run down 15th Street as well, or is that?
No, the DRI zone ends at 11. But if we had to, you saw this supervisor shamelessly dancing, if we have to, continue it down, but that would not be the DRI money. We can't use DRI money outside of the DRI zone. So the connection all the way down to 15th Street is a few blocks outside the zone.
So if the sidewalks get destroyed south of 11, what happens?
As part of this project, they would be replaced.
They'd be
If this project came up, this project would be replaced.
Just a second follow-up. Have there been, as part of this whole evaluation, were there projections on what type of development within this corridor would occur as a result of this? And obviously, you can have higher density buildings. I mean, were there any projections on kind of what the impact would be in terms of development in the zone? And are there going to be any changes in zoning to accommodate, for example, larger, higher density buildings?
So as part of this project, we looked at the existing zoning and what the potential flow could be if this area was built out based on that zoning. So any potential build out as of right now is based on the current zoning.
Right.
Any change in zoning that would have to be coordinated with the town, applied for, and also any even individual development on a lot still has to be submitted to the town for approval. What essentially this project doing is we try to project all that and we're putting in the infrastructure to make sure we can handle it. So any future build out, we have projected for that and we're ready to accept that flow as this area is built up.
So they took our current zoning, which is C6. Craig Turner here is our Deputy Director of Planning Department, gentleman in the shirt and tie. And C6 allows for retail first floor and 2 apartments above, depending on sewage hookups and parking issues and whatnot. Correct, Craig?
Yeah, I think most of this area is zoned C6 general business. It does allow 3-story buildings. Usually it does allow 3-story commercial. You don't really see a demand for that. So they did look at it as, what if, these properties all got built out, new commercial space, a certain percentage they look at and assume, okay, this may be restaurants, they'll have a little more flow. What ability is there to build apartments above? The residential has a little more flow than, let's say, a dry retail store, and all those went into the calculations for the district.
So I think our planning department has been involved.
Yeah, we've had multiple meetings with the town planning department to review the projection.
So if the current limit is 3 stories.
3 stories. So similar to what's built in Huntington Village or the north of the tracks on the east side. Those are, generally commercial first floor apartments above.
So I mean, but as part of this, there's no thought that, perhaps you could put a 4-story or a 5-story building on this.
I don't vote, Craig doesn't vote, but, at this point in time, now that having that discussion. We don't want to get too crazy. The lower you go, the darker the streets get.
The question, the station has the same parking restrictions development have to have on-site parking?
I mean, that's gonna be a big factor that goes into this. Sites do have to provide parking for whatever they build. If they build more, they have to add parking. So that's definitely one of the challenges all the property owners are gonna have to deal with. You know, you do have a lot of buildings and a lot of parcels here that have 0 parking on site. Right now, they would have to find some, you know, parking on an adjacent property or adjacent parcel in order to further develop it, or there would have to be further investments in, you know, having, you know, municipal parking available. There is one small, you know, there's a lot right here at the top of the church property that is municipal parking, so in this area you do have a little ability to use that, but parking is something that's going to control how much gets developed
So
in
the
this
town
whole
would
area.
allow that? They would allow developers to like defer to municipal parking, existing municipal parking in their developments, and the village stop that?
I mean, that's what happens in Huntington Village. Obviously, most of those properties don't have parking. You do have probably most of the properties starting almost by the church here going north don't have any parking. Some of them are close enough to the municipal lot that the municipal lot can be used to provide parking for those businesses. Obviously, we have a code though that says residential parking is supposed to be on site versus using municipal, so they would have to use that, they would have to find parking if they were to do residential development.
Could they buy a residential lot immediately behind
They
them?
can't buy a residential lot, they could buy a commercial lot and use it for parking.
Not a lot of that.
Residential,
Aha, gotcha. We're not doing all this
yeah.
to not let you guys be able to build. So we've already had internal discussions about this new market situation.
Yes, so
Most
the
of
rules
the
are fairly similar.
facilities, because most people are 0 lot line on the street side. So, you know, I would love to see some cooperation, get rid of the driveways on New York Avenue, and just have people enter from the side streets, and it gives you cross easements where you get to your particular lot and park. It's not up to me, you know, I can't tell private businesses what to do, but we know there's going to be parking issues here, and we're looking to do, help out, because, you know, the village has 8 or 9 municipal facilities.
And would it be
And
possible
you have
to
one
rezone?
that they want to turn to a park.
Would it be possible to rezone it residential, like if someone bought a house immediately behind?
I don't vote, anything's possible.
So let's say
There are possibilities, we may have to have a whole separate discussion of parking. Separate from this is,
Yeah.
now this is assuming this is going to happen, and we'll have to build it. We just have to figure out how we're going to deal with parking. I'm just going to
Most of, in areas of business,
I think the church is going to be
one space per apartment. Or I think one space per bedroom.
No, right. Go.
Per apartment.
No. Point to him once.